Hi, Charlie Thorben here. Welcome to Mordor Gundogs. We're meeting the team. This is Ash, and
Hello.
Ash is going to tell you a little bit about himself. So Ash, tell us about what you see your role here at Mordor Gundogs.
Ooh, bit of everything. Train a lot of dogs. Kind of look after everybody a little bit. If there's problem solving. But you know, overall, a little bit of everything. Chipping in everywhere. Picking up plenty of poop. Exercising all the dogs. Yeah, just keeping the team happy. Really, that's what I like. Keep the team happy makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah. So Ash is basically in charge when I'm not here. That's probably the easiest way to put it, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And is in charge of a lot of things even when I am here, kind of thing. So you're, I think your bio on our website is you're the head trainer.
Okay.
But I would say I think you're probably head of more than that. Sort of, you're kind of. Yeah, you're kind of right-hand man. You do the demos with me, and then you do demos on your own. You take lessons.
Yeah.
Probably do more lessons than me these days, don't you? Don't you think?
I think so.
I kind of organise some of that
so.
possible. Do you?
Oh, this is a pointer.
Yeah. Or I miraculously come out the woodwork as a pretty girl, did I? Or some guy pitches up the helicopter or something.
Or a pretty, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background. We've interviewed Lauren. So although I got a lot of grief for talking too much and not giving Lauren a chance, but I feel like
you'll have to talk for me.
I feel like Lauren doesn't just waffle on about nothing. Lauren just says things that are useful. So I had to sort of waffle on a bit. So tell us about Lauren told us about your dogs, but tell us it from your point of view. So where you started, when you first realised that you love dogs. Give us a quick bio about your dogs.
So I was never allowed dogs growing up. Like when I was a child, it would
because
so it turned out that my mum, if she's watching this, thanks. She was allergic to dogs from when she was pregnant with me. So
she became allergic when she was pregnant. Okay.
But she's not allergic to any of my dogs now. So I think it was a pretty good. You're not having a dog till you're old enough kind of thing, and I think it was the right thing because I wanted one forever.
You mean when you were like Freddie's age?
Yeah.
When you were little.
Like just wanted a dog like the entire time. My sister grew up. Moved out, got a dog. Was pretty jealous of that. She had a few.
And still has a few, doesn't she?
Yeah, she had a few. And then it was. I grew up and moved out, and then as soon as I moved out, it was like the first thing. I was like, right, that's it. Got my house, so I can get a dog. And it was a complete nightmare.
How old were you?
Good question. That's a Lauren question, I guess. Maybe 20.
You don't know how old you are now, so you don't know.
27.
Okay.
No, maybe 26, 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you grow
up? East Sussex, so right on the coast.
Okay.
In a town called Seaford.
Okay, and living at home with mum and dad and sister and
brother and sister moved out, and then I just hung around. Yeah, it's quite good for me to stay at home.
You hung around until you were like 26?
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
So
I was sensible. It was easier at home. My brothers and sisters are gone, so I just kicked back, saved some money, and got dinner cooked for me.
Kicked back, yeah. So I'm brittle. I've already told Freddie. Yeah. You know Freddie, but Freddie is just 10. I've already told Freddie if he's still living here when he's 18, he's paying rent.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You paid rent, though?
I mean, I paid pretty much the same as what the mortgage would be. I would have thought. So.
Oh, what you paid? You paid your mum's mortgage.
Yeah. It was,
okay. Yeah, so your mum's not the saint that you're immediately preferring her as.
No.
She's very sensible.
Yeah.
Woman after my own heart.
Yeah, I think as soon as I started my first job, it was. There'd be like a small amount which would go to maintenance and as early as that. Yeah, just a little bit.
And
Just
she
got me used to it though.
Did she keep it all?
No, I don't know what she did with
Oh
it.
no, but I mean, you never saw it again though.
Oh yeah, no.
So I'm not going to let Freddie watch this video, but my plan with my children would be if they're still here, they pay rent, but then once they show me that they're kind of grown up and sensible enough, I'll just hand it all back and go, here's a deposit for your house.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what she's done with it. Maybe I mean, she's
Bought a dog.
She's on me over the years, so I mean, it's a drop in the ocean to what I cost her.
Yeah. So you bought a house in Sussex.
Yeah.
And you and Lauren moved in together and bought a dog.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
All in a week, or
started Well, it was. It was within the first year. We had a bit of work to do there and ripped some stuff out and.
Because you bought a sort of an old cottage and you renovated it yourself, didn't you?
Yeah.
Or with quite a lot of help, quite a lot yourself, with some help from some of your family are plumbers and
friends and family.
Lauren's brother a plumber, or your brother,
Lauren's
or
brother? He's done a lot of the plumbing. Yeah.
Okay.
Just friends, family. So all of the important stuff like electrics and plumbing was done by professionals, and then the rest of it was just botched together by me.
By you, yeah. Cool. Well, that's good. You got a house, and now you've got someone renting that off you, haven't you? Because you've moved the other end of the country.
Yeah.
So you've watched Lauren's interview, as have maybe some of these guys watching. When we talked about the dogs and the ones, Poppy kind of being nobody's, Sam being yours, Lemon being everybody's. So is there any of that? Did any of that you go, oh no, that's not true?
Just Poppy.
What did you say about Poppy? Well, Poppy's yours.
Yeah. When it's on, it's really on, and when she's just.
So when she's working and doing something, she's your dog.
Yeah.
And she's like, right, let's go. But is she your dog or is she the works dog?
I think the work.
Yeah.
Like, we're just a good partnership.
Yeah. But do you think she would work for someone else though?
Yep.
Yeah. But that's what I mean. She's a bit like Lemon in that way. She's like, oh, there's an opportunity to go working. I don't care who I'm with. I'll just go working.
Yeah. But I just feel like she'll take the mick out of them.
Yeah.
Because they won't see her subtle.
No, sure.
I'm up to something.
Sure, but that doesn't mean she's yours though, because we see plenty of dogs that belong to clients, who we see that happening, and we stop it or prevent it happening, and they're not our dogs. I mean, you and I have both been out in lessons where we've seen a dog about to do something wrong, and we're like, or just do something. We're like, oh, your dog needs the loo, and they're like, what? How do you know? Like, because we know dogs, and within a minute or so they've done the loo, and. Or just get your dog back because it's obviously getting onto a pheasant, and they don't know anything about it. Next thing it flushes a pheasant. We just can read dogs, so that's. So I'm just I mean, like Poppy.
No, but I think that's her, and I suppose that sort of a breed a bit in general is they're a little bit. I love you, but over here.
Over here, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Poppy's a German shorthead pointer. For those of you who haven't watched. Lauren's interview on our YouTube channel, and then you got Super Sam.
Yep.
And Sam's definitely your dog.
Yep.
Isn't he? Now Sam came from. You knew his dad, is that right?
Yeah, and most of his family.
A lot of his family.
Yeah, a lot of his family. Dad, granddad, uncles, aunts. Everyone had sort of someone related to him. In and around close to where we were.
Yeah, so you're really a bit like me getting my first dog. Like I didn't just buy a puppy. I bought a puppy off two parents I knew and grandparents I knew and great grandparents, and it was a real I know all of them, so I want one of those. And did he turn out how you thought he was going to turn out?
I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think he's wonderful. I love him to bits. And I think
but he's not been the easiest dog though. He's not been the most straightforward dog. Like you put a lot of work into him with some like. Delivery problems with him. General enthusiasm must have taken quite a lot to kind of keep him where you want him.
Yeah.
So Sam is much more of a. So we'll just talk about, without going into too much detail in terms of the breeding and the lines, but just talk about like how Sam's breeding differs to ours, for instance, like our dogs, like Chino, who's lying on the floor over here.
So he's got a lot of champions in his bloodline. What physically do you mean?
Just in general, just his family and his.
So his paperwork says he does a lot of work. a lot of them are sort of field trial champions, field trial winners, sort of up to parents, like, you know, grandparents. It's not sort of diluted in any way. His grandfather was very, very good. Probably the best dog I've ever seen. He just could do everything, and if I wished he was like that, if Labradors all were like that, then that would be, you know, real. They'd be awesome. But yeah, I got one that's slightly smaller and slightly edgier.
So some of his family are kind of bigger dogs,
much bigger,
more like our dogs, kind of in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting, because Sam's not.
Slight.
He's compared to our dogs. He's quite slight. He's not as slight as we've just done a video on a very slight dog. He's not like that, but because he's a good-looking boy still. But he's definitely more.
He was the smallest of the litter. He was
okay?
He was definitely.
And he stayed the smallest.
Yeah, he was called Tiny Tim before we called him Sam. So he was quite small.
Because that's interesting. Because people say to me, "Oh, if I got the runt," so I thought he was going to be the smallest. Like we've seen. Kobe, for instance, you know, Kobe comes to stay.
Yeah.
He was the runt, but now he's huge.
Little, yeah.
I mean, he was literally like he was teeny, and we hand fed him in the front of the. He lived in the kitchen with Freddie Freddie hand fed him for weeks, and you look at him now, and he's this huge, great dog with a big head, isn't he? It's just interesting that Sam stayed smaller.
Yeah, he stayed small. He's actually sort of filling out a bit now, but I feel like he's not like slowing down by any means, but he's more methodical. Yeah,
because he was quite kind of like everything was done at 110 miles an hour, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like almost a discredit to him because he'd missed stuff because he was too fast. Because he was and that's a drawback of having a fast dog, is that it just blows straight over the top of it, and holding him in the area was pretty hard to do, and he'd run around like a sort of headless chicken for a little while when he was younger, and that was where it was quite frustrating and difficult, was because you knew he could do it standing on his head, but if he just slowed down just a teeny little bit and figured it out, he'd have been very good. Yeah,
he's the sort of dog that if you were sending him out for a bird at the beginning of the day, he'd be all over the place, and like an old timer like Chino would just come in at the back of him, go dit, 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 and just pick it up, and Sam had been over the ground and like, where's it? It's a bit like when I say to Freddie, where's your shoe, and he runs around the house like, where's my shoe, and it's like it's just
right
there.
All along, and just slow down
and slow down, and that's age, isn't it? And he he's just
took a bit more to
get that. Yeah, exactly. And so let's move on to your career, because your jobs that you've done, because it's quite an unusual change, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose I was a bit of a not like a tearaway by any means, but at school I'd rather be doing some kind of work than sitting at school. So
manual work, like outside doing something,
anything,
but not sitting in a classroom.
But if someone sort of said, I'll give you £3 to do this, I'd be like, well, I'd rather do that than school. So so that's what happened. I ended up in a barber's and a hairdresser's at quite a young age, and I kind of just stayed there.
Just originally just sweeping the floor? Yeah,
just
literally for a few quid, as a 14-year-old or whatever.
School, that's where I'd go, sweep the floor, clean up, get a couple of quid, maybe a can of Coke, and that was my pay for the day, and I was really happy with that. And then just stayed. I was lucky enough, so there was a lady, Carol, she was very kind and let me in her shop. Like, it was a bit of a risk really, because I just went round and sort of knocking doors, seeing if anyone would have me basically, and she said okay, so she gave me a chance, and stayed there pretty much forever. She put me through college, did a lot for me. So
what do you call it? Hairdressing college, barbering college.
Yeah,
what I don't know what it's
just like a hairdressing college. So did
Ash cuts my hair.
Yeah.
and his own. Yeah.
That's because I've got a pointer. That's where it's all gone.
Yeah. So how old were you when you just started sweeping the floors and stuff?
Like 12 or 13, probably.
Really, so it's kind of similar, like in a completely different career, but kind of like I started working on on a dairy farm along the road from my parents' house and just used to bicycle along there. And they literally gave me, I mean, threepence halfpenny kind of, you know, like, I mean, I'm not that old, but I mean, literally sort of, yeah, I mean, they'd give me a bit of cash, but I mean, it was like nothing at all relative to kind of the hours I did, but it you know, and it was hard graft and I was expected to work hard, but you just kind of got on with it. And if that's your kind of, I think it's just similar training, you just learn to work. And I think, yeah, it's key to learn to work that, you know, yeah, I think it's important that, like, you work for money and you understand that, but I think it's also important just to learn to be a grafter, isn't it? I think it sets people up.
So she was really perfect for that, because she was a bit old school, if I'm allowed to say that these days. Like, you know, you wouldn't allow, like, stand it, you know, you'd have to stand if you're in the shop. If you're on show, you'd always have to stand, be cleaning something, be doing something, never sitting down reading a magazine or outside. It would be, if you're on site, do something.
So, you know,
and it's really rubbed off on me, like, just forever, like, she's, you know.
So, you know, Antonia's a sort of was a chef, and whenever we go to a cafe or a restaurant, you see her sitting there kind of critiquing the staff. Right. And she's like, one of the simple golden rules that she relays to me and the kids regularly is you never ever go back to the kitchen with an empty hand, because there is always someone who's got a plate or whatever. Exactly. And she's been trained to do that. You know, she was taught by her growing up and then in her work that you know, you go out to deliver someone's food, you walk away and you're like, oh, they've got an empty glass or the next table or whatever, and she sits there and she's watching these, you know, young kids or younger kids going back to and like, you know, it's just such a waste of time. And it's just old school, isn't it? It's the same thing. It's like me saying, oh, can you go and do, you know, Ash is our we'll get onto his other career briefly in a minute, but Ash traps our moles for us from your next career's training. And you know, and I was like, well, you're always like, you know, you go out to do the moles and you've got a dog walking to heel to do the moles, sitting next to you while you're doing the moles. So you're using your opportunity. What's the point of walking out to do a molehill when you could walk out there with a Labrador heel, make them sit and stay? Yeah. It's just being efficient with your time, isn't it? Definitely. And so before we go on to your next thing, there was an element in your life where you were quite into boxing and stuff, wasn't there? And I don't really know where that fitted in. I know you went abroad for a bit to do some training. Yeah. I don't know what point that was kind of pre getting into the sort of countryside world, wasn't it?
That was, just it was quite a big chunk of time just growing up, probably.
So what was it though? What were you into?
I like boxing. And
regular
Thai boxing, but later on just more boxing.
Okay, and you did that on a sort of quite a serious amateur level, right?
Yeah, I took part seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, like you did competitions and stuff.
Yeah.
You win competitions?
So not like competitions that we sort of would say competitions, but there's tournaments and stuff like that you go to, and then it's more just they tournaments are for sort of qualifying and just getting a bit of experience rather than more you know, you win the tournament for a trophy or whatever. It's just getting kind of experience behind you at the tournament. You can just get a lot done in a single day.
Yep.
Or like 3 bouts or something like that. It's quite a lot to have in a day.
Yep. So you were sort of really into fitness and training a lot.
A bit mad. Yeah, bit of, you know, it's a bit of an obsession, I guess. Fitness.
In what way? Tell me.
I probably wasn't the most technically gifted person in training, but if I could outwork you, I would. I'd find a way to outwork you, and that got. Although it worked really well, it was you know, has detrimental to life in general, and it's just doing too much. So yeah, I was working all day, probably trained twice a day. Runs in the morning, runs in the evening, and I just thought if no one's out doing it now and I'm out doing it, that's going to put me ahead of everybody else. But you know, you burn out at some point.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was talking to Freddie the other day about practicing sport. You know, if you're not naturally like the best, like he's not the best in his class. Yeah. But he really likes it. And I'm like, well, so if you put in the time, you will just if you put in more time than everyone else, and significantly more time than everyone else, you'll set yourself up to be better. Yeah. And I was talking about a film I watched on an aeroplane, which was an American chap who was he went to Arkansas University, so he eventually became an Arkansas Razorback, and the reason I know them is because a family of clients of mine, all 3 generations have all been an Arkansas Razorback. So before going on to a bit bigger and even better things. Anyway, this young guy he just loved football, American football, but wasn't necessarily naturally gifted. He was a bit of a heavy set kid, quite a fat kid, probably ate too much McDonald's and drank too much Coke. But he trained harder and harder than everybody else, and he ended up taking the Arkansas Razorbacks to winning the college league, and he got drafted for the NFL, and then sadly he died in a car crash leaving college. He died in a car crash, but he's sort of much remembered, and basically it was, he's the most famous and most successful walk-in or walk-on, they call it. So that's like when they just, you haven't been picked, but you just turn up for practice and you show that you're committed, and you keep getting told no, and you keep practicing and you keep practicing, and eventually they were like, we're going to give you a shot. And because he was so fit and so determined, so you were talking about a similar thing.
Yeah, it was exactly like that.
And often the people who are maybe naturally talented at anything become a bit lazy because they're just good at it, aren't they? And they're like, oh yeah, this is easy. Whereas the kid that really, really wants it is often the one that ends up being the one that everyone wants because they're so determined and they've got the right attitude towards it.
And they found it harder for a lot longer because they had to work harder. Whereas if you, I suppose it all sort of almost falls in your lap when you. So just in my experience, this is it. But for the guys that were really naturally gifted, as soon as they come up against a real problem, it kind of knocked their confidence. Whereas I'd got it wrong for ages, so I was quite, but like dog training, like, the more the dogs go wrong, and the more you learn.
The more you learn, Whereas if you end up with half a dozen really lovely dogs, you're not actually that good a dog trainer. You just happen to have the right dogs.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine from school who was the guy at school. Like, he was super popular. He was like a prefect. He was in all the major sports teams, and he was in them probably for like 2 years. He was just really naturally gifted at sport, and just not necessarily clever, but clever enough. And school was his time.
Yeah.
And he was just like the guy at school and became head boy, and just. And he, he's like that. That was me. I peaked.
Yeah.
He peaked at school. He peaked when he was 18 and he was at school, and then he went to university, but didn't get on very well. He's got a good job and things, but he's like, I'm not the best in my field. I'm not remotely the best in my field. I'm not the best in any field. But at school, he was a big school, and he was the guy kind of thing. And it was just really interesting because it probably because he found it all a bit easy at school. It all just happened. And then when he came across a bit, sort of had to actually do some hard work, and it was a bit of a challenge, suddenly it was like, oh, I don't know how to do that, because he'd never had to do it. And I think, I see that in clever people. I think my sister maybe is one of those. She's super, super bright, like photographic memory, 4 A's at A-level, better at maths than her maths teacher, but she found it all too easy, and therefore academically, she didn't ever have to really. She didn't have that struggle. She had struggles in other ways, as we all do, but that wasn't something she struggled with. And probably hasn't. Probably then took longer for her to then find her thing that she loved because she didn't have that. Everything just came her way, and then suddenly it wasn't anymore. There was another film that I watched, which was a. Clint Eastwood film, and it was he was a sort of baseball, I don't know what you call it, like a spotter, or like he went looking for new players for a team.
Oh yeah.
And he went off to see this guy who was a young kind of college player or whatever, or young school player, and was deemed to be this amazing batsman, and he was full of himself, arrogant, and at school at the level he was at, he could whack anyone out of the park. I mean, phenomenal on basic skills. And then he was driving his daughter, then through the story, his daughter, who'd grown up in this world, she took over his role because he was going blind and couldn't see people anymore, and his daughter took over the role and was helping him. And she was driving past a guy on the side of the road, just hitting a ball, throwing a ball at his friends or whatever, and she just looked and was like, that guy's just naturally amazing, and he just a nobody, like poor background, lived in a trailer type thing, and they brought him along to the same trial as this amazing batsman, and the batsman had seen this guy before because he like handed the water out at the games. He's like, oh, this is a waste of time, I'm so good. And it's quite a lovely film, and the guy was this amazing. Is that a bowler? Do you call him a bowler in baseball?
I guess so.
Pitcher. There you go, the pitcher. And it's just amazing. And he just threw these pictures of this batsman who was seemingly like the guy, and we were going to pay him a load of money and sign a contract. And he absolutely crucified him. And this just simple, like low-key, not simple, like I just mean like a low-key, just nice guy who did it because he loved it, rather than this other guy who's like, yeah, I'm the man, everyone tells me how good I am. As soon as there was a curve, it's called Curveball or something, I think that's the name of the film. And as soon as the pitcher pitched a curveball, the guy was just in pieces. Because all he could do was whack amateur pitchers for miles, because anyone would just throw a ball at him, he could hit it. But as soon as it had any sort of talent, any swing or anything on it, he couldn't do it. And he just, literally the guy fell apart. It's interesting what you say. So you then decided you were going to do something different, and you went back to college.
Yeah, yeah, I did.
What did you do?
So I went to I went to study gamekeeping, but the reason I wanted to study gamekeeping was just more for dogs, to understand everything better, and for an entry into some kind of dog training profession or
the world of dogs through working dogs.
Yeah, into working dogs. So through my first dog, she early on used to work with birds of prey, stuff like that. That's how it started. Birds of prey are pretty unreliable. If they get rained on, they're not allowed out. If they're too fat, they're not allowed out. If they're too skinny, they're not allowed out. And most of the time they're not allowed out. So, but the dog can go out all the time.
Dog can go out all the time.
So I had to, find some other like-minded people and actually go sort of shooting rather than out with a bird. That's the kind of progression from there really, and just doing little bits to sort of help keepers, or little bits on boundaries and stuff like that, and then I actually thought maybe this is a good idea, and then everyone said no, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. You've done this forever, you've done this job since the start, and it's a bad idea.
As in they were telling you it's a bad idea to quit being a barber and go and do something different.
Yeah, because
it's changed though.
It served me all right, and everything.
And you had a good income and everything else. And,
it was fine. I was comfortable, and I think that's why it was kind of a bit of a risk to sort of go. Yeah. How are you going to go 3 days a week at college, and still manage to do everything? But I think you just manage. If you want to do it, you manage. Yeah. I've got a good quote, Ian. I'm going to pull it up on my phone. I love my quotes, as you all know. You probably won't get many good quotes from me. Just manage.
No, none of them come from me. They're just. Someone told me not to bite off more than I can chew. Okay, and I told them I'd rather choke on greatness than nibble on mediocrity. Okay. So I just quite like that. I quite like that quote. I don't know. Maybe Ian knows who said it. So Ian's going to put a little caption at the bottom and probably write the correct quote. But yeah, often people say, "Oh, don't do that." It's that's because people are scared of change.
Bit of a risk.
So if you don't take a risk, I mean, you didn't see it as a risk. You were like, it's just something you want to do.
Tunnel vision at the time. It was the direction I definitely wanted to go in. I just didn't know how to get there, and all the doors just kept closing. Wherever you sort of go, closed door. Wherever and it was just kind of trying to get in somewhere was difficult. Not many jobs are about that sort of cater for that. So for me, it was more. I get a gamekeeping job, and then my dogs can come and I've got a training ground for them. Then, if you like, yes, there's a lot of work to do, but it's my dogs get a lot of work to do.
So you sort of, you're basically sort of saying it a little bit along the lines of what Dan said to me, when you haven't seen Dan's video because we haven't put it up yet,
right? But
a little bit along the lines of what Dan said. Dan said to me something. I think Dan sent people emails, so people like me with Gundog trainers or whatever, he sent them emails, and I was like, how many did you send? He goes, oh, hundreds.
Yeah.
And I was like, what response do you get? He goes, most of the time I didn't get response, and I'd send it again, and then the rest of the time I just got no. Yeah. And he's like, it wasn't even very rarely was there ever even more than that. It was just like no. Yeah. So yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame because I think there's definitely something lacking. I don't think there's many industries that are that negative about letting new people in and encouraging people in, are there?
Yeah.
And I mean, you've probably seen this in doing competitions and things with your dogs. It's quite a kind of like, oh, who are you? And not, oh, welcome, there's somebody new.
Yeah.
I mean, did you, like, whereas, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'd imagine when you turned up and started doing boxing, people were much more encouraging, like, yeah, come along, come to this. So we've got this event on. But have you had any of that in the dog training world?
So just comparing it to boxing, the hardest thing with because loads of people always said, oh, I really want to do that, really want to do that. The hardest thing is getting from your house to the door of the boxing gym, and that, like, mentally, that's the hardest bit to do. Walking in the door is the easy bit, because once you're there, everybody will help you. They'll be like, come on, we're all in the same boat. By the time you've done the warm up, you just think, what was all the fuss about?
Yeah.
I think sort of
compare that to the dog training world, though.
So even just going to different shoots or different places, it's kind of like, who's this? It's kind of, we are all doing the same thing, but it's a little bit
sort of territorial. Why are you here?
Yeah, why are you here? Who are you? I don't know why it's like that, but it just is.
It's funny, isn't it?
It just is. Rather than I know people need people to do the job right, and they need, but it's a lot easier to say hello and kind of get on with it than it is to just sort of not say hello, it would seem. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it's a real, or sort of bigger picture, I think it's a real problem in the gamekeeping world, and you experienced that quite soon after you came up here. I remember you and Lauren going off for a walk with your dogs, and you got accosted by a gamekeeper, and a very, there you were with clearly a countryside person wearing a tweed cap and having gun dogs that were clearly well behaved, and there was no sort of niceties about it at all, was there? You were very much kind of like, God, this is...
Actually, I wasn't sort of dressed like this. I was dressed probably more like a townie. To the keeper's defence. Okay. I had a pair of jeans. I had a pair of wellies because I live in wellies. That's it.
Yeah.
And just a fleece. But but yeah, a strange.
It was a strange.
Yeah, just a strange encounter, and I just hope that there aren't many encounters like that, whether they're people with dogs, without dogs, or what, because it's completely out of season. Dogs will walk into hill, but still just wanted to have them go at me whilst I'm on a footpath, which is
which is a shame. And I understand from the from the keeper's point of view, you get lots of people whose dogs aren't in control and they're not abiding by the rules, and it must drive you mad. And there's a chap who does a lot of videos, a farmer from Scotland, a sheep farmer, and he's constantly got people like. And the other day I watched one of his videos, and someone dog had chased a sheep into a river, and he's like in the river, like having to pull it out, and there's the guy going, oh, he normally got great recall, and you could see the farmer was like, oh, I bet he does, he's normally got great recall, and he's basically there going, what a load of bollocks, you just haven't got any control over your dog. So I understand the sort of frustration, and what he's doing, which is great, is actually showing it from the other side of you, which is, look, this is what we have to put up with. We're trying to farm, we're trying to make a living, we're trying to look after these animals, these livestock, and you come along with your dog and chase them into a river, and it might have been pregnant or whatever, and it's causing trouble. But I think the problem often arises is the kind of he's very good at going in and being calm and trying to teach people, whereas a lot of, I think what you encountered was someone just going, get off my land, and you're kind of like, well, actually, you don't have to get off our land. It is a footpath. We're not doing anything we shouldn't be doing. Yeah. And all you're doing is putting our backs up and making us a negative.
Yeah, because actually, I support everything that he does.
Yeah.
Apart from having a row with people for no reason. Maybe he had a bad day.
Yeah, maybe the three people before you their dogs had all chased sheep and chased grouse and chased everything else. So you just don't know. But it's just a shame.
Yeah.
But just move on to you were working as a gamekeeper
Yeah, small,
On a
just small amount of partridge, but it was mainly for like field trials and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it was very much like a place set up for dog training, wasn't it? And there was a guy there who you'd done some training with, who was he had his setup kind of like us, but on this lady's estate.
Yeah.
And you were looking after the game and the game covers and all that sort of thing, and he was training his dog and running training days, and so that was kind of a really quite a good balance between doing a bit of gamekeeping and doing some dog stuff as well, wasn't it?
It's really nice. Really nice.
But we managed to persuade you to come up here.
Yeah. It wasn't for the weather.
Come on, Ash. Look at this. Going forward, what do you see? What do you see? What bits of what we do now? What bits are you enjoying? What bits would you change? What is there anything you would want us to do that? Quite a pointed question on video. We can always edit it out. But is there anything that you'd want us to do that we're not doing, or something that we're doing that you don't want to do?
No. I think everything's everything's it's right, isn't it? I just want to keep the dogs forever. And that's just not the business, And
no, sadly, it's not.
You just sort of get
some of them you don't.
Yeah,
some of them you're like, take them home, get them out the door.
Some of them, yeah. That's right. But no, I think as the kind of whole is when they're really sort of kicking off and they're really going well is the time we say goodbye, and it's just just I know you can't, but it's just one more year, one more. It would be and you just feel like you could just really get them really far on, but then that's
just the nature. It's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Yeah, I'm afraid I feel exactly the same as you. And
other than that, a couple of 1,000 acres would be good with some nice lakes for training and. Yeah,
we're working. I'm working on it. I'm not sure about a couple of thousand, but we're working on maybe 100. That's space is. There's always more stuff you can do, and that I'm pretty ambitious about plans and things. So hopefully we'll be able to pull some of that out the bag in the not too distant future. So to summarise, Ash, you've gone from being a tearaway at school to helping in a barber shop to becoming a kickboxing barber to a gamekeeper / dog guy to a full-time dog guy. Is your career going in the right direction?
Yeah, I feel like I'm what I'm supposed to do now for like the first time.
And how old are you, Ash? Roughly, like 35, 36?
36, I think.
Yeah, you're just about the same age as Antonio, right?
Yeah,
I think a bit
36.
younger. Yeah. So for the first time in 20 years, you're there.
Yeah, you don't get that drive into work. I don't want to go.
Yeah, well, the great thing about this part of the world is there's no. I remember you telling me like to get from your house to where you were gamekeeping was like 5 miles. It'd take you like an hour and a half.
So you'll take half hour easy.
But in traffic, it would take you like ages. And you're the same distance now, and it's like every day it's the same. The only thing that's going to slow you down is a lamb on the road.
Yeah.
Especially at this time of year, I came across a few this morning on the way back from school. They're all getting like. Late spring, and they're all like, out in the middle of the road, eating, like tearing up and down and causing trouble. Good. Okay. Well, thank you all for watching.
Thank you.
Ash is obviously, the hard work behind the hard work behind us here, and if you want to do a lesson or anything else, hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you. Remember, you get out what you put in.